Have you ever experienced an unexpected tremor coursing through your spine or felt a mysterious pressure settling directly in the middle of your forehead, as though something deep within is attempting to stir to life? If such sensations have ever visited you, pause everything you're doing, because this could be the most unmistakable indication that your Kundalini energy is stirring to consciousness at this very moment. And virtually no one has ever explained to you what this truly signifies. The ancient Atlantean sage unveiled something that remained concealed from humanity for thousands of years. Within your being exists a vital, potent force quietly pulsating at the foundation of your spinal column. And when this force begins its ascent, everything transforms completely. This is not symbolic language. You will experience this directly through your physical form. Vibrations, warmth, extraordinary emotions, alterations in awareness. It's as though existence itself starts responding to your presence in an entirely new manner. But listen carefully. This phenomenon is far from ordinary, and its nature is not always mild. When this energy stirs to life, it purges everything in its path. It draws forth your authentic essence to the surface. And this intensity can prove overwhelming for those still existing in unconscious patterns. In the coming moments, you'll comprehend precisely what this force represents, the reasons for its dormancy, and how it revolutionizes your consciousness, your physical vessel, and your spirit from within. But only those who remain present throughout will uncover the precise instant when this energy becomes active, and what occurs when it penetrates through the crown of your head. Your presence here is no accident. Something within you has already begun its awakening process. The serpent, representing life's eternal renewal, rests within humanity until the inner flame causes it to ascend. Then the moment arrives, an instant when everything surrounding you becomes still, not because the external world has ceased, but because something within you descends into a form of living void. It's a moment where the atmosphere feels transformed. Time decelerates, and even your mental processes become more dispersed. You perceive, but not through your conventional senses. You perceive through your essence. And within that stillness, a vibration commences. Subtle, nearly undetectable, yet persistent, as though the very space within your being were murmuring a secret too primordial to have ever been lost. This vibration transcends sound. It doesn't contact your auditory perception. It's neither melody nor voice. It's as though an identity were attempting to resonate within you, but without characters, without form, without dialect, merely existence. And this existence pulsates. It pulsates within the core of your chest. Sometimes it descends toward the abdomen. Sometimes it ascends like a ray of illumination to your head's summit. You don't perceive it audibly, yet you acknowledge it. And this represents the most enigmatic aspect. Though you've never encountered it previously, you sense you've eternally understood it. The ancient master called this the concealed word, the original sound that remained unspoken. He declared that before manifestation existed a pulse, a pure vibration without boundaries, without restrictions. That pulse represented consciousness itself in its unrefined condition, and it continues vibrating. Within every living entity, there exists a fragment of that silent sound, an identity that was never vocalized because it belongs to no language. It wasn't created for speaking. It was created for experiencing. And however peculiar it may appear, perhaps you've already experienced it when you're solitary in the deepest quiet, and you observe an internal rhythm that doesn't originate from your cardiac function or your respiration. Something more refined, more personal, a warmth without a source, a vibration without beginning, as though someone were summoning you from within your own being. This summoning is not intellectual. It doesn't rely on cognition, faith, or conviction. It manifests when your vibrational field attains a particular level of openness. It's not about exertion. It's about awareness. The more you become tranquil, the more the sound discloses itself. The less you attempt to comprehend it, the nearer it approaches. Until suddenly, you understand the energy is not arriving. It has perpetually existed there. What transformed was your receptivity. And when this receptivity awakens, everything internal begins reorganizing. Your organs, your respiration, your emotions, your energetic essence. It's as though your complete being is listening to a symphony that the mind still cannot interpret. But even without comprehending it, you experience it. Something has shifted. Something has been contacted. And this shift doesn't reverse because the silent sound once stimulated reverberates like a vibrational key. It contacts mechanisms that were locked. It opens passages that only respond to this frequency. And once you experience this vibration, something within you begins moving independently, as though your own energy were assuming control of transformation. But what precisely does this sound truly stimulate? What does it accomplish to the physical form, to emotions, to thoughts? When it finally resonates without obstructions, that is exactly when the transformation becomes apparent. The serpent was never malevolent. It was the guide. When the silent vibration contacts subtle regions of your form, something deeper begins revealing itself, as though an ancient symbol which has always existed within you were awakening from forgetfulness. It doesn't manifest as a mental image. It emerges as a living, instinctive sensation that moves along your spine's base and gradually begins ascending. A coiled, spiraled force that moves as though it understands the path back to your center, the serpent. But this serpent is not the antagonist in the narratives. It never was. What they conveyed to you about it was inverted. Behind the image feared by religions and doctrines, there exists one of the most sacred and powerful symbols of ancient spirituality. Ancient civilizations from different regions of the world understood that the serpent represented something divine, not an ordinary creature, but a living energy. Untouchable, untamable, the very intelligence of creation in its pure state. It was depicted in spirals, thrones, crowns, temples, and manuscripts because it represented the energy that generates consciousness. The sacred serpent appears in Egypt, in India, in Mesoamerican cultures, in the mysteries of Greece, always associated with awakening, healing, immortality. But over time, this symbol was corrupted. It was transformed into fear, into transgression, into something to be avoided and not by chance. Because those who understand the true meaning of the serpent understand the power they carry within. The ancient teacher instructed that this energy was coiled like a code dormant in the inner sanctuary of every human being, and that this serpent of light is the bridge between realms. Not the physical realms, but the inner realms. The realm of unconsciousness and the realm of presence. The realm of spiritual numbness and the realm of awakened consciousness. But it doesn't awaken simply because someone tells you it exists. It awakens when you cease living on autopilot. When you stop repeating patterns, when you begin questioning the imposed versions of reality and decide to look within, that's when it begins to move. And this movement is not mental. It's not imagined. It is felt in the body. It's as though your inner axis begins to vibrate from bottom to top. As though something that was compressed and asleep finally expands. It's warm, it's fluid, it's mysterious. Sometimes gentle, sometimes overwhelming. And even if you attempt to explain it, you cannot find the words because it's not an experience to be spoken, it's to be lived. This energetic serpent travels through subtle channels. It contacts points that were inactive. And each contact reorganizes not just the physical body, but the vibrational field. It dissolves blockages, expands energy centers, activates forgotten memories. And the more it rises, the more reality changes, perception changes, sensitivity increases, intuition blooms. And in this process, you begin to remember, not with the rational mind, but with the body, as though every cell recognizes a forgotten language, a language made of vibration and light. The serpent was never evil. It has always been the map, the path back home, the guiding thread that takes you from dense matter to luminous consciousness. But what happens when it really begins to rise? When this energy leaves the point of origin and begins its conscious ascent through your body, that's when the body begins to respond in ways you never imagined. And this response can be overwhelming. It travels through the subtle channels of your body, as though following a map that has always been there. And suddenly you feel it. But it's not imagination, it's physical, it's real, it's intense. It may begin with a dense heat that spreads like an inner fire, burning everything that no longer serves, or with an involuntary tremor that runs through the hands, shoulders, spine. Sometimes it's like a pulsing wave, a movement that rises and falls as though life itself were breathing through you. This can happen in silence. It can be in the middle of a meditation or when you close your eyes for a moment. It can be in the darkness of your room or out in nature when nothing else seems to matter. It's in that space between sound and emptiness that the energy begins to act without effort, without command, just by tuning in. It senses that your field is open, and it begins to emerge like an invisible tide carrying everything that still blocks expansion. It's not gentle all the time. Sometimes it feels too intense. The heart races. The breathing changes. Emotions surface without explanation. You might laugh, cry, tremble, feel a shiver that doesn't end. The body seems not to know how to react, but in reality it knows. It's remembering what it's like to feel your own energy flowing freely. Many describe this sensation as liquid heat, a loving electricity, an ancestral force that takes over the body from the inside. It passes through the spine, activates the belly, expands the chest, vibrates in the throat, pulses in the center of the forehead, and at times explodes at the top of the head like a light that no one sees with their eyes, but that illuminates everything inside. And this is not a hallucination, it is activation. The ancient master taught that this energy has its own intelligence. It knows where it needs to go. It knows what it needs to unlock. And it acts precisely even when you don't understand what's happening. It clears old emotions, dissolves fears you didn't even know you carried, reorganizes the vibrational field, like someone redesigning the architecture of the soul. And all of this begins with the body, because the body feels before the mind understands. It vibrates, it responds, it trembles, heats up, pulses. It's as though every cell awakens from a millennial-long sleep. And even if you try to resist, it keeps going. Because this force doesn't depend on your permission, it only needs your openness. And when it finds that space, it rises. But when this energy reaches the heart region, something changes. The impact is not just physical. It crosses a deeper layer. Because the heart is not just an organ. It is a portal. And what happens when the serpent touches this portal can forever change the way you feel life. When it reaches the top, everything changes. When it touches the heart, something inside you breaks. But it doesn't shatter. It opens. As though the walls you built for years suddenly collapsed all at once. And in that collapse, everything that was hidden begins to surface. The energy that rises doesn't just bring light. It drags up everything you tried to bury, every unprocessed pain, every memory you set aside, every emotion that was suffocated in the name of survival. This is where the process intensifies. Because now the energy isn't just activating sensations, it's revealing. It digs up what was forgotten. It illuminates the parts of your soul that you've hidden, even from yourself. And this can be unsettling. It might come as crying you can't understand, a deep sadness with no apparent reason, a rage you didn't know was still there, old fears, shame, guilt. Everything that was stored in silence begins to speak, but not with words. It speaks through sensations, through impulses, through images that pop up out of nowhere. The body begins to react as though it were cleansing centuries of repression. And in a way, it is because Kundalini energy carries an intelligence that doesn't separate light from shadow. It takes everything. It cleans everything. It makes every part of you come back to life. The ancient teacher used to say that the one who carries the fire must first walk through their own darkness. And now you understand what that means. This is not a romantic awakening. It's not about feeling only peace or enlightenment. It's a rite of passage, a plunge into the raw truth of who you are without filters. And often that is uncomfortable. But it's precisely that discomfort that purifies, that prepares the ground for something greater. You begin to realize that the energy didn't come to please the ego. It came to dissolve it, and the ego screams. It resists. It fights to stay in control. But Kundalini doesn't negotiate. It moves through. It shows. It releases. Because only what is no longer trapped in pain can rise with freedom. And at that moment, you feel yourself being reorganized from the inside. As though your body were burning memories. As though old structures were being demolished to make room for something new. It's not just symbolic. It's real. It's physical. It's emotional, it's vibrational, all at the same time. It's like being pulled into an inner whirlwind that doesn't stop until everything has been touched. But this purification has a destination. And when the energy with everything it carries finally reaches the top of your head, something explodes inside you. The explosion isn't like fire that destroys. It's like light that pierces through. A moment when the pressure that built up along the way finds a passage and shoots upward, reaching the top of your head with the precision of lightning that knows exactly where to strike. You might be sitting, lying down, or in absolute silence when you feel it. The top of your skull seems to expand. Some describe it as though the skin opens in invisible petals. Others feel a surge of rising heat that ends in an inner pop. Some see flashes, fractals, golden, violet, or bright white light behind closed eyes. But regardless of the form, the sign is the same. The energy has reached the portal. This point is known in many traditions. In the yogic map, it's the crown chakra. In ancient occultism, the radiant crown in the temples connected to the ancient wisdom, it's the throne of the inner fire. It's not poetry, it's subtle physiology. When the current that climbed through the central channels touches this region, a circuit closes. And when the circuit closes, consciousness and body enter an altered state that doesn't depend on substances, beliefs, or forced visualizations. It's natural, it's yours. What you notice first is usually a shift in density. The body feels lighter or wider than the space it occupies. Breathing slows effortlessly. The heartbeat might fluctuate for a few seconds, then stabilize with unusual depth. Fine electric sensations move across the scalp like luminous rain. Some people report hearing a high-pitched humming like a distant bell. Others hear total silence so complete it feels like sound. This silence is not absence. It's a field. It's as though you're inside a vibratory dome. On the emotional level, defenses immediately lower. The pain that moments before was rising strongly might open into tenderness, relief, compassion without an object. It's not sentimentalism. It's the release of a charge. When the energy reaches the crown, compressed memories find their exit through the flow of light. Often tears flow without sadness. The body cries because it's unloading. Some laugh. Some enter complete stillness. Every reaction is a natural response to release. There are also perceptual effects. The sense of inside and outside begins to blur. You still feel your body, but you're not confined to it. It's as though the area around you is alive, with the same energy pulsing inside. Space stops being empty. It becomes an extension of your field. This phenomenon has been reported for centuries in mystical records and appears today in studies of non-ordinary states of consciousness, the perception of unity or interconnection. The ancient master instructed initiates to remain still when the throne of the inner fire ignited. Don't interfere. Don't try to control it, because at this point the intelligence of the energy takes the lead. Forcing breath, clenching muscles, or getting scared can disperse the experience. Observing, breathing gently, and allowing the flow to continue consolidates the opening. The ancient practice of resting the tongue on the soft palate and relaxing the jaw helps stabilize the current's passage to the top. Small gestures, big difference. It's common to feel a liquid column in the center, as though the inside of the spine is filled with light. This doesn't mean the spine literally glows, but the subjective experience is so vivid that many describe it exactly like that. This current seems to pulse in sync with the heart and with something broader that has no fixed rhythm. It rises, expands at the crown, and in some cases cascades down over the skin like an inner drizzle falling over the shoulders and arms. This descending return prepares later adjustments in the body. But let's stay focused on the point of the opening. The mental clarity here is unique. Thoughts still exist, but they lose their weight. It's like seeing them from above. Judgments, stories, dramas all stay at a distance. You see without getting tangled. This clarity is not intellectual, it's spatial. There's space between you and the mental contents. Many masters have called this space the witness. The ancient teacher associated this state with the unveiled eye, vision that observes without attachment. Physically, after the crown opens, you might feel light muscle spasms in the neck or shoulders. These aren't flaws, they're adjustments. The body realigns accumulated tension to accommodate the increased flow. Drinking water, preferably in small mindful sips, helps conduct the body's electricity. Staying seated for a few minutes before standing helps prevent temporary dizziness, since the energy pressure temporarily alters proprioception. None of this requires spiritual perfection. It requires willingness. The energy knows how to do the rest. And when it lights up the throne of the inner fire, a mark remains. Even if the symptoms subside, you never fully return to your previous state. Something has been registered in your energetic body, your nervous system, your deep memory. The transformation is irreversible because now there is an inner reference. You know what it feels like to be connected. And it's after this opening that the adjustments that truly shift your identity begin. Because in the days following this activation, your body, your emotions, and even your choices start to reorganize according to this new frequency. And that reorganization can change everything. The secret was inside your body all along. In the following days, you notice something that can no longer be ignored. The world doesn't feel the same. It's not just an idea or a passing sensation. It's real. Your body is vibrating differently, and that changes everything. You wake up and don't feel the same density in the air. The environment seems wider, as if time has slowed down. Ordinary sounds have a new depth. The light coming through the window has a brightness you had never noticed before. But the most impressive part isn't outside. It's inside. Your chest pulses. Not like a simple heartbeat, but as if there's a new center of perception there. Emotions come with more clarity. You get moved by simple things, but without losing control. You feel more, and yet you identify less with what you feel. It's like you're starting to live from another place, a quieter, more attentive, more whole place. And there's more. People react differently to you. Some look at you longer. Others seem to avoid you without explanation. Situations that once felt stuck start to move, and others that were happening on autopilot begin to collapse. This is no coincidence. It's a response. Your vibrational field is being rewritten from within, and that changes how the universe perceives you. You start to attract realities that are more aligned with this new state. Not because you're thinking positively or trying to manifest something, but because the frequency you're emitting has changed. Many describe persistent bodily sensations, heat in the center of the body, a subtle ringing in the ears, sudden chills, heightened sensitivity to sounds, smells, and even the presence of others. Some describe vivid dreams, symbolic encounters, soft voices calling from within, images that appear spontaneously with closed eyes. All of this is a sign that the energy hasn't just awakened, but is starting to organize your field. This period is delicate because the ego still tries to cling to old structures. It wants to understand. It wants to control. But the energy moving through you doesn't follow mental logic. It has its own intelligence, and the less you interfere, the more it works. The ancient teacher said that this process is like the dawn. The body darkens before it brightens. It's normal to feel strange, out of place, as if you've returned to a world that no longer matches your new vibration. But this is just transition. Your soul is taking the internal space that for a long time was occupied by external noise. And it's at this point that you start asking yourself the question no one ever encouraged you to ask. What is this energy that awakened inside me? It didn't come from the outside. You didn't get it from someone else. It's not a gift from a master or entity. It was already there from the beginning, but silenced, ignored, asleep. Kundalini energy is the vibrational aspect of your soul. It's the thread that connects you to your origin, the forgotten spark that never went out. It just waited for the moment to be felt again. And when it awakens, everything starts to realign, not with society's axis, but with the axis of your being. That's why the world seems to react, because you start to step out of the role you were taught to play, and you start existing from who you are. The ancient teacher taught that the soul is not lost, it is veiled. And the veil is the density you inherited, accepted, and repeated. When the energy starts to rise, it tears this veil. That's why it hurts. That's why it's scary. But that's also why it frees you. The truth no one told you is that this energy is you. And it doesn't need to be learned. It needs to be heard, felt, allowed. And when you recognize this, something changes forever. You no longer depend on external structures. You start trusting the living intelligence that pulses in your own field. And that's exactly why this energy was hidden for so long. Because an awakened soul doesn't bow. It feels when something is wrong. Even if no one says anything, it intuitively knows what's behind the words. It sees the invisible. And that scares those who built the world on structures of control. Imagine a world where people don't follow out of fear but out of purpose. Where they don't blindly obey orders but choose wisely. Where they don't consume to fill voids but live from real fullness. A world like that is impossible to control. That's why the sacred serpent was turned into a symbol of sin. That's why the inner fire was called dangerous. That's why the energy of the soul was caricatured as something too mystical, too fanciful, too spiritual to be taken seriously. If millions of people accessed this force, systems of domination would collapse. Guilt would lose its power. Fear would no longer be fuel. The beliefs that imprison would fall. And in that collapse, a new type of human would emerge, conscious, vibrant, whole. The ancient teacher knew this, and that's why he left hidden instructions in the records of wisdom. He said the true initiate is not the one who repeats formulas, but the one who recognizes the fire when it lights up inside and keeps that fire as a living temple, not as a secret. Because when you awaken this force, a new destiny starts to be written. And it's not the destiny someone planned for you. It's the path that has always been vibrating within your field, but is only now beginning to emerge. And that path is unique. You start to remember that you came into this world with a code, that the body is not just matter, but an energetic score, that the soul is not lost in time. It is trying to call you back to itself. And in that instant, everything changes because you realize it was never about seeking something outside. It was about fully inhabiting what's already pulsing inside. The energy that once seemed separate, distant, unreachable, now reveals itself as part of who you are. You don't just activate the energy, you become it. There's no longer a separation between body and soul, between spirit and matter. The body becomes a temple, the mind quiets and becomes a channel. Actions gain a different weight because they come from a more authentic, deeper place, and that feeling of being incomplete disappears. The ancient teacher called this state total remembrance. When the being no longer needs to search because it embodies, it vibrates, it is. Now, everything that used to be external starts to respond to your internal state. Realities shape themselves. People naturally come closer or drift away. Time reorganizes. Life changes. Not because something was forced, but because something essential finally took the lead. You no longer need to fit in because now you emanate. The most powerful energy in the universe is inside you. And it's not just a force, it is you. The ancient teacher didn't want followers. He left maps, codes, frequencies, and he knew that at the right time those who were ready would remember. And now that you remember, no one can take that away from you. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you has already started to respond.